Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Abel of the IMS Global Learning Consortium, and welcome to our Learning Impact on Demand series. We are here to explore the topic of effective digital teaching and learning and what we are experiencing in light of the accelerated movement to online, virtual, and distance education in the age of COVID-19 and beyond, hearing from leading IMS members, the smartest people on the planet when it comes to ed tech. Today, we have a 10-minute interview on this topic. We are very pleased to have with us Kenneth Chapman, who is the Vice President for Market Research at D2L, a leading learning environment or LMS provider to higher ed, K-12, and corporate learning. Welcome, Kenneth.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Sure thing. Thank you for being here. What we'd like to hone in on for our audience is really to get your insights from this unprecedented situation that we're experiencing. Digital learning is happening in all different sorts of ways right now. Some probably being done well, some perhaps not. And this situation is certainly going to be with us for some time. And from your vantage point, we'd like to hear what you're learning right now and how you think things may be different going forward. So let's start with the kind of right now, sort of what we're seeing so far, how are institutions dealing with this unprecedented scale of digital learning, perhaps what the priorities are right now that you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're learning a lot. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to really take stock of what kinds of pressures our customers are facing and what they need in their partners to kind of support them. So first and foremost, what we're hearing is student and family safety first. And the organizations that we're working with are really rightly prioritizing the health and well-being of their students and their vulnerable populations, which is really great to see. I think one thing that is becoming much more salient and relevant is how much broadband access needs to be seen as essential utility. Like electricity, like everything else. In a major shift that's happening in education, we can't allow for new barriers to access to education to create or widen any inequalities in access to education. We're hearing a lot about how important it is for mental health to be paramount. As we're thinking about the human element of these first responders for the education response. Teachers, their support networks, their students, and even the parents that are supporting them are under immense pressure, and it's easy to overwhelm them in these new modalities of learning, the new technologies, and just our day-to-day routines. And we're learning that a lot of organizations really recognize that, while they may have started in crisis mode in doing, what we call remote learning, mostly synchronous, Zoom, MS Teams, that kind of thing, that they recognize that it's not the same as a really well-designed online learning strategy. One where equity, accessibility is designed in and typically happens more asynchronously.
Right.
We're also seeing those. We're also seeing those organizations that that experimented with resiliency ahead of this crisis are doing much better. Those that thought about digital snow days and things like that, they're fine-tuning and optimizing rather than in full crisis mode, which is pretty interesting.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a great insight. How about back to school in the fall, so to speak? Is there time to make changes, add in some highly effective practices you're seeing, getting something right that maybe isn't being done right now? What do you think? What's your recommendations?
Yeah, I think there's lots of course corrections that need to happen in that intermediary between remote and online learning. And again, I hope that we don't see kids back in classrooms until it's safe. And we have to recognize that we're probably going to need to be prepared for some level of COVID cases to spike and flare up, and that we may need to make a shift back to online learning. So thinking about having that technology backbone as a resiliency step for continuity of education, I think is going to be just part of how standard operating procedures going forward. I think that you're going to see instructional designers and leaders start to think about how do we meaningfully design for the medium? How do we make sure that we're building in accessibility at scale? How are we thinking about the different forms of engagement, communication, and demonstration of ability or assessment that really work with the online formats and aren't analogous to what was happening in the classroom potentially.
Right.
And I think you're going to see more organizations start to adopt some of the practices that online institutions have already figured out, fully online institutions, things like content that's in smaller chunks, more authentic and quality assessments, more personalized engagement with students, and a lot of instrumentation to recognize progress and recognize risk and intervene effectively. So, that means that there's a lot of enablement and learning and support that faculty and their support networks are going to need right now if we want to get these things done for the fall.
Right. So a lot of design and development activities to move forward. And do you think the practices for, from those successful online universities are sort of readily understood now? It has been a while, so I think probably the answer is yes. Sounds like you agree with that.
I think they're available. I don't know that your general institution would understand and really appreciate that teaching and designing an online learning experience is different than the classroom. And there are a lot of fundamental things and assumptions that need to be questioned in doing that.
Right. Okay. So how about further on down the line, after we might even have a vaccine, or we might have some sort of better treatments and so forth? What's going to stick with us, do you think, say a year from now, hopefully, or sooner maybe?
Yeah, I think resiliency is going to be a word and a core competency you'll see more institutions talking about and preparing for and kind of, to ante up on. And that's in terms of continuity of their community, of the engagement they have with students, continuity and resiliency in the academic challenge that they can provide, regardless of any disruptions that come, in third waves, fourth waves, or other things we haven't thought of. I mean, a year from now, we weren't talking about pandemics. Or sorry, a year previous. I'm an optimist, so I think this crisis mode is really going to shed a light on how important instructional design and faculty support networks really are to the health and well-being of the student experience. I think that layer and that upfront part of the design element is really going to have a spotlight on it, and a lot of institutions are really recognizing the value that provides.
Right. I guess one of the really good news pieces of this is you mentioned resiliency is, company like D2L, and the fact that is really been accustomed now to operating, programs at scale and online and fully, cloud-based. I guess you guys have to be pretty proud of what you've been able to achieve there.
Immensely. I mean, we've seen massive spikes in utilization over the last month, and we're really happy to say we've been up and running and 99.99% uptime. So what's nice about that is we're not distracted from keeping the lights on. We have our attention into how do we help support and hold the hands of our customers that are trying to go through some of these challenges that we have some experience over the decades in transforming.
Yeah, so it's a very very fortunate situation, I think, in terms of, the LMS having been recognized, I don't know, maybe it was 15 years ago or so, or certainly at least 10 years ago as one of the key mission critical systems, right? And now that has really borne some key benefits. Well, finally, I'd like to thank you and Desire to Learn for being a leader in our nonprofit work at the IMS Global Learning Consortium. How would you describe the impact of the work of IMS now and going forward as it relates to this?
Yeah, awesome question, Rob. And we love being part of the IMS community. For us as a vendor, it's absolutely essential for us to be focused on the types of problems we're trying to solve. So really simply, the work of IMS lets vendors like us focus more on solving teaching and learning problems and less on all of the infrastructure and challenges that come with making things interoperate. For the institutions we work with, it's easing the IT burden for them. They can roll out and implement the tools that their educators love to use and their students want. For teachers and instructors, they use the tools they love. They can preserve the privacy, security, and access to data, but think about the types of learning experiences for their students. And for those students and any parent that's watching their students log into 5 different things and try to maintain an experience, it helps create that rich online experience and something that's whole. And that's really important, again, for that mental health and that feeling of being overwhelmed. So, for us, as online learning is becoming more essential for institutions, the underlying standards process is that much more essential as well. So IMS has never been more important to us.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Kenneth, for your insights, and thanks to our viewers for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you back here for more of our series on highly effective digital teaching and learning. This is Rob Abel saying bye for now, and let's keep the learning going.